Welcome back to the Haven Homestead Podcast, where we learn and grow together on our way to living more sustainable lives. My name is Chris, and today we are on episode 20, Power Outages 102. So we're going to be talking about long-term power outages. Last time we were talking about short-term power outages, just for a few hours, and those are increasing across the country, but there's always a chance that you could be faced with a situation where you have a long-term power outage, like, and we'll get into that. I was about to say what things could happen, but we'll cover that here in a moment. But first, I want to remind you that you can find all of our past episodes, more about us and products we offer and things that we offer from our little homestead here, at havenhomestead.com. That's Haven, Haven, homestead.com. Also, please consider coming out to Patreon and becoming our patron on Patreon. That's patreon.com/havenhomestead. And we really appreciate all the supporters that we have now and look forward to having more so that we can keep helping people to live more sustainable lives. So let's get into the power outages, long-term power outages, that is. So the power outages that we're talking about here are 1 to 3 days, which is a typical long-term power outage, but sometimes they even go up, to a week. And if the situation is extreme, it could go to, longer, months or weeks at least. We're going to be talking about what was the reason that might happen. So why might this kind of long-term power outage happen? Well, if in our area they've had landslides that come through, and if you live on the side of a hill, it could slough off, or if you live near there, your power lines run along there, it could come down and wipe out the house, or the houses that come down the hill could wipe out the power lines and make it impassable for you to get out of your, where you live. That's one of the main things that we have here. Also just extreme weather, whether it's a flood or hurricane or tornado, or wherever it is, whatever the main natural disaster is where you live, or whatever it's prone. If you live in the mountains, maybe it's earthquakes. If you live on the plains, maybe it's twisters. It just kind of depends. And I'm not talking about the party game. I'm talking about the cyclones that come from the sky. Also, wartime. Sometimes infrastructure is the first things that get taken out. So that could also be a possibility. I don't know where you are, but there's lots of possibilities for why you might be faced with a long-term power outage. And if you are prepared for a long-term power outage or any sort of long-term disaster, then you don't need to be worried about it. You'll be just fine if you are prepared and stay calm. Which leads us to the very first rule. We talked about this last time on episode 19 last week, is just relax. There's no reason in getting all excited. It's scary to people of all ages, kids and adults. The kids are worried because things are a little bit different, and adults are worried for the same reason, because things are a little bit different. Maybe they can't text, or they can't email, or they can't watch TV, or whatever the reason may be. Like I said before, when we first moved out here to the country, it was a little bit unnerving how quiet everything was. No sound of cars, no street lights. The night is really dark and very, very quiet. So to some people that could be scary. And power outages are definitely fall into that category. You have to be careful to avoid the fatal mistakes. And I put fatal in quotations. It's not really fatal. It's not going to kill you, but there are certain things that people do that they're just used to having power all the time. So what they'll do is they'll go into their fridge over and over again looking for something. And it might just be a nervous thing when something you're used to doing. You just go in and look in the fridge to see if there's anything you want to eat. Nah, nothing I want to eat in there, and you close it again. Well, this time for now, if you're having a power outage, a blackout for a few days, every time you open that, you're letting cold air out and warm air in, and your food can go bad in there and be dangerous to eat. You're encouraging bacterial growth. Don't go in the fridge. Think about what you're doing. Don't flush the toilet if you just, peed in there. Water is a commodity now. A commodity that's in short supply if you don't have power, unless you're lucky enough to live in a place that has gravity-fed water. Where my grandparents live in the little town in Idaho, everything is on gravity-fed water. And so power outages don't affect their water supply, which is really nice. But here we're on a well, so if the well pump doesn't have power, then we don't have pressure. The other fatal mistake, so opening the fridge, flushing the toilet, wasting the cold air out of the fridge and the water. The other fatal mistake is disobeying rule number 1, and that is freaking out and not relaxing, not just realizing that the power's just out. There's no reason to throw a tissy. One of the things that you can do, so Lindsay's, like I said last time, Lindsay's going to write down all this stuff in a blog post, but one of the suggestions that she had in this, and I was kind of looking at her notes, and one of the suggestions she had is have a blackout party. And what you do is eat ice cream, so it's going to be going soft and bad here pretty quick, so just grab your ice cream out of there, be quick. If you have it in your freezer or not. You don't have to stand there with it open looking at it, but grab your ice cream out, serve it up, have everybody eat as much ice cream as they want, because what you don't eat is going to go soft and go bad anyways. Have a treasure hunt. Play games with the kids. You can play pack sardines, which is kind of like hide and seek for those of you that don't know how to play pack sardines. But one person hides and everyone looks for them, and as they find the person, they hide with them. So by the end of the game, everyone's packed into a small spot with the person that's the hider. And what we like to do is the first person that found him gets to be the next hider, because if not, then some people like to dilly-dally and not really look very hard because they want to be the last person, that way they can hide next. And so we make them actually try by using the rule that they have to be the first person to find him, that's the next hider. So anyway, sardines is a fun game. Something you can do just to occupy your own mind while you don't have TV and you don't have all the modern luxuries that we enjoy, is you could read a book. You could play card games or board games. You can go for a walk. You can go for a walk and check on your neighbors. If you have animals, take care of them. A lot of these things we covered in the last episode with the short-term power outages. But you can also, work in the garden. You can plan your garden if it's, springtime or wintertime. You can plant your garden or start, plant something in your garden. Maybe it's time to get that second crop of spinach in or kale or something. You could also go out and weed in the garden. Just getting out of the house, just getting away from the things that you would typically be doing that use electricity. That way that you can kind of keep a clear mind and adhere to rule number 1. You could also take a nap. I like to take naps. That would be a good idea for me. It seems like it's a good stress reliever to just take a little siesta. So if you have your power outage kit ready and together, then when the power outage hits, you just go over and you grab your kit and you're ready to rock and roll. some of the things that should be in your kit is water. Now, water, like I mentioned earlier, is a commodity when it comes to a blackout. You need about 5 to 10 gallons of water per day per person. So it would really be a good idea to store water for something like this that would happen. Now, a little bit on water storage. You shouldn't use jugs like a milk jug. You shouldn't use milk jugs because that plastic is really weak, and we've used milk jugs before, and it seems like they start leaking on the shelf the quickest of anything. Some really good things to use for, you can look up online best reusable containers for water storage or something like that, but the apple juice containers, they're kind of thick, but usually 1 gallon. Those are really good water storage containers. There's also the ones that are like a half gallon that, I don't know, the regular juice you get at this store. I can't think of any brands off the top of my head, but stay away from milk jugs. Even soda, the big 2-liter soda bottles, those work good for water storage as well. So those are just some cheap options. But you need to have water in your kit. You need to have sleeping bags, some food. You should be prepared for 72 hours. It's just prudent, and the government has also mentioned that's a good idea. What it is one thing I see, that if everyone had a 72-hour kit, then when a storm came through, they wouldn't be rushing in, one, dangerous out on the roads if it's the winter time, or during any sort of natural disaster, and 2, they like to rush to the same stores and buy all the same sort of things like flashlights and chips and I don't know, whatever. People go in and they rush in and they buy all these things. When we were supposed to have a really bad storm this last winter, and the people went in and bought all the flashlights. Well, the storm didn't actually happen. It just blew over, and people went in and took all their flashlights back, returned them. Now, if they were going to run in there and buy the flashlights in the first place, then obviously they didn't have them at home. And to return them, I think, is a blunder on their part, because now they're just as unprepared as they were before the storm, and there might be one that'll catch them unawares, and they'll be in a sad shape. So if you get this kit together ahead of time, the 72-hour kit, then you will help the general population, in that you won't be one of the people running in to get those supplies that you should have got after listening to this episode when the disaster is already happening. Some of the things you should get or have in there is a flashlight with extra batteries, maybe even candles and matches or lighters. You should have your phone charger for your car. You can plug into your car, so that if you need, you can go out and charge it out there rather than in the house. You should have a generator with fuel for 3 days. You need a radio, like an AM/FM radio, so you can listen to what's going on in the news and around your area. Also, phone numbers for all of your utility companies. You need directions to, or a map, or at least know where the fire department is, where the hospital is, where the police department is, those sort of things. That way that if you need to get into them for some reason and you can't call them, then you know where they're at. They might also have emergency preparedness protocols to where they can help you as well in those areas. So on day 1, you just want to hunker down. Just want to eat your ice cream, have your party, just relax, and hope that by day 2 the power comes back on. By day 2, if the power hasn't yet come back on, you need to start thinking about using up all of the stuff in your fridge. And your stuff in your freezer, depending on how good your freezer is insulated wise and seal wise, it might last till day 3. But your refrigerator will probably not last past day 2, if that. So you'll need to eat or store all of your perishable food items. Time to start canning if you know how. If you can, get canning. And if you can on an electric stove, you might want to think about having a propane burner that you can use to can. And that's what we've used for our last, when we did canned a bunch of rabbit. And it worked really, really well. I was surprised at how easy it was to keep the temperature the same. And we're using pressure canners, and with pressure canners, you have to keep the pressure at a certain pound PSI, pounds per square inch, so that you don't, ruin the meat. It can't go under and it can't go over, so it has to be and that propane burner really kept it nice and even. So day 2, eat or store all of your perishables. And by day 3, you need to assess what you need to do next. So if you have enough supplies, if you've been smart and got your blackout kit, 72-hour kit, some food storage, some water stored, then by day 3 you're probably still sitting pretty. And it might be a good idea to see if any of your neighbors need help. And that's totally up to you if you want to do that or not. But it would be a good idea. So you need to assess whether you need to leave the house, head for town, go try to stay at a hotel if there's any rooms left. By day 3, it's probably pretty slim pickings. Maybe at a friend's house or a neighbor's house. So those are your options really. Either leave the house, stay at the house, and your third option is stay and offer help and shelter to other people that might not be as prepared as you are because they didn't hear this podcast episode. I know I feel kind of arrogant saying that, but really, I'm not doing this for my preparedness, but to help you get your preparedness in order. I really feel that this is important. Blackouts happen all the time. Power outages happen all the time. And the way our modern life is, we are so dependent on electricity that things can really turn upside down quickly if we don't have it. So last thing I want to say here is just remember rule number 1, don't panic, just relax. Your kids can tell whether you're freaking out or whether you're nice and calm. Kids, this is going to be fine. We're going to have fun. We're going to play games, and it's going to be like we're camping, but we're in the house or something. Just have to try to use your parental cleverness and keep the kids calm, and everyone will get through it just fine. Have your kit prepared and keep your frame of mind calm. Well, I hope that this has been useful to you. I hope that this got you thinking about power outages, prepping and trying to live a sustainable lifestyle does not have to be fear-driven, and it shouldn't be fear-driven. Lindsay did a really nice blog article on a prepper's manifesto that you can find at our website at havenhomestead.com. She wrote about not having a fear-driven agenda on prepping, and that's true. You shouldn't be doing this out of fear of what could happen, but just do it because when the time comes, you'll be sitting pretty because you planned ahead, because you were prudent enough to assess the situation and know that things could be worse. Well, with that, I think that's all I have for you on the long-term power outages. If you have anything else you'd like to add, please go to havenhomestead.com to the podcast section. Look for this episode 20, and put a comment on there about if you have anything you'd like to add on long-term power outages. Once again, this is the Haven Homestead Podcast, where we learn and grow together on our way to living more sustainable lives. Thanks for listening.